Hi everyone, I did my presentation on AB 1264. First, what is AB 1264? AB 1264 is a law that bans public schools from serving ultra-processed foods. And this law was actually created by Assemblyman Jesse Gabriel, whom represents the San Fernando Valley. He wrote the law because he saw that there was such a big increase in student health, like kind of dipping due to these unhealthy foods, and so he decided to do something about it and write this in 2024. First, what is the issue with processed foods, ultra processed foods? So, a big issue is that ultra processed foods are basically foods that are very high in fats, um, added sugars, a lot of additives which are very harmful to children, and overall, like if you recall, in school cafeterias way back then, whenever elementary school was, you would recall like or at least me personally, I would remember these grilled cheeses. They were like so salty, so cheesy, and it's like overall like I didn't realize how bad it was for you. But after further research, I kind of see like these foods are became such a problem because they overall kind of brought down health and they kind of built unhealthy eating habits such as like snacking or like eating in a like excessive amount of calories. So what will this law do to schools? Essentially, what the law will do will it will prevent public schools from kind of serving these foods and like having an abundance of ultra processed and kind of go in the direction of whole foods. Like they will feel they will have to be forced to serve more fruits, more veggies, more things that are like have fewer calories rather than things that are like more fried or like kind of like in abundance, easy to prepare. And so instead of taking these shortcuts that schools may take to lower preparation times and as well as costs, they'll have to pay more attention and more effort into making the meal plan for these students a lot healthier. So going into the first pro. The first pro right off the bat is that this will increase long-term health benefits. And not only will it lower the risk of these like other bad things, I I should mention that ultra processed foods have been found to be kind of causes of chronic diseases such as like cardiovascular disease, certain types of cancers, and which is why Jesse Gabriel decided that he wanted to make these public schools have healthier food options. But removing these ultra processed foods means that there will be healthier meals in the schools and better long-term outcomes. And I see that as the first pro. And as we go into the second pro, so overall for children, it's very important to build habits early on. Everyone kind of knows this when working with children, that whatever you work with early on in your kind of childhood is kind of like what sets the tone for you as you gradually get older. And another big pro of this is if we have students eat healthier food, it'll create healthy eating habits, causing them to learn kind of young to opt in more for whole foods rather than your typical like chips, soda, candy, fried foods and things of that nature. And then they will lean more towards fruits, vegetables, foods that are more nutrient dense, that aren't as high in calories. And this will be a great stepping like stone to getting our future generations kind of get their foot in the door of getting used to eating healthy early because it's become an apparent problem that a lot of students actually do not have learn healthy eating habits until much later in their lives because they're so used to eating these foods at school. Like when I recall I was in high school, pizza was one of the main things that we would eat. burgers, sandwiches, these foods that are super easy to make and you can buy in bulk weren't promoting healthy eating habits. And that's kind of where the issue really resides here. So this early exposure to eating healthier and opting for these choices is going to do these children so much more. So although there are very obvious pros, what comes with pros are always going to be cons. And in this case takes more of a logistic standpoint. And the reason why people or schools will kind of opt for these ultra processed foods is because they're cheaper and they're overall easy to maintain and have in their cafeterias. But one big con is that with the ban, they will have to opt for more whole foods, which actually cost a lot more. And additionally, the California Farm Bureau actually states that a possible ban on ultra processed foods will lead to farmers tending to change up what they're growing because there's going to be no longer a need for these um like crops that produce ultra processed foods and will instead have to kind of change what they're growing, which is why they're poses such a big risk. And then going into another con is that at the end of the day, these are just children. Like it's very possible that food waste will go higher, as stated in a Harvard study that there's even though there are healthier options, that kind of correlates to more food waste because especially at the younger ages, like if they're so used to being with these ultra processed foods, foods that aren't really like it's not their first choice, it may lead to more food waste and in turn more food waste and food waste. Just to kind of summarize things is that AB 1264 kind of bans ultra processed foods from public school cafeterias and there are many dangers of ultra processed foods as they prove to be very unhealthy with the amount of additives, added sugars, being high in fats, which can lead to chronic diseases. So, in my research, I have found that this law will only have more pros than cons because at the end of the day, like building these healthier habits will get these children to build better habits for their future and will kind of teach them how to live with a proper diet instead of kind of relying on these things like chips, burgers, pizzas, just because they're easy to make and easy to eat. So if we can get them to realize that, oh, like they should opt in for more fruits, veggies, whole foods, it'll be so much more beneficial than just giving them what's easy. And this will really make a difference in our education system because it'll lead for these children to have better habits just right off the bat instead of them learning much later. So that is why I believe AB 1264, the ban of ultra processed foods in school cafeterias, is going to be extremely beneficial to California. And I'm very happy that someone is assigned to do something. And so here are my references, and thank you so much.